Hello, podcast listeners. First up, thank you so much for listening to and supporting the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. We love doing it and we love getting the amazing comments in from all of you. Just a quick reminder that the Your Success book is out now on amazon.co.uk and amazon.com. It's currently available in both paperback and Kindle, and the audiobook will be coming out in 2019. Head to tiny.cc/yourbook to check it out. That's tiny.cc/yourbook to check it out. Now, on with the podcast.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go. Here are your hosts, Angelos and Mo.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. I'm Angelos.
And I'm Mo.
And today we'll be discussing the important subject of team building. To discuss this topic, we are privileged to be joined by Mark Holt of Mark Holt & Co., where he started the firm back in 1987 and has built up a team of over 50 people and has learned some really valuable lessons along the way. Mark is a genuine all-rounder with a wide range of financial expertise. Prior to setting up the firm, Mark was a manager for an international firm of accountants. He has an analytical approach which has led him to a carefully thought out plan for both his firm and for many other clients as they develop successful strategies.
So Mark, thank you for joining us today. Nervous and excited about today's podcast because it's going to be something a little bit different, which hopefully everyone will enjoy. But thank you for joining us on Your Success Podcast.
Yeah, we have some practical exercises that Mark's going to test us on just to see how good our team building abilities are.
So Mark, you've got the top 5 things for effective team building. So we're going to run through communication. We're going to talk about culture, priorities, listening to feedback and trust. But first off, we're going to start with communication.
Okay.
So,
first of all, guys, thank you for inviting me to. If I've learned one thing, I've learned that it's quite nice for it to be fun.
Right.
So when asked would I do a podcast, I decided I'd do something that was a bit different. And I think you'll find this quite interesting. And I hope everybody listening and reading will also find it the same. When I was a small guy on my own, if you're a one-man band, one brain cell communicates with another brain cell and you just go out and do it. But when it gets bigger, you've got to communicate with somebody else. And that person doesn't quite get what you're trying to say. And then there's another person in the team and you tell the first person and they've got to tell the second person. And guess what? By the time the 10th person is involved, it's all gone to pot.
Yeah.
So the first exercise that I would give you, or in fact tell you about, but anybody who's watching this or listening to this could use, is an exercise which is an old party game called Chinese Whispers. It's not racist, it's just what it's called. And that is, you start in your team, you tell the first person something and say, please pass that message on. Now, this was done many years ago, and it was the first person said, send reinforcements, we're going to advance. And this military strategy, by the time it went around the room, it got to the last person, and it was send 3 and 4pence, we're going to a dance. So try that at home, in your business, tell the first person something, let them whisper it into the second person's ear, and by the time it's gone around 10 people, I can guarantee the message that you told the first person has been transformed into something you don't want it to be. So you have to take control of the communication process and you have to get your message across, because if you let it go to gossip and whispers and an uncontrolled message, soon everybody's doing their own thing and it's not on message. So the point is, the way to keep people on message is you've got to be in front of people, telling people clearly what you want them to do.
And what do you find in businesses that you work with? What do you find is the best way that they can do that?
I'm old-fashioned. I believe there's nothing like face-to-face. I believe that if you're in front of a group of people, you can get a message across and you can look into their eyes. I'm not somebody who's modern, it's all gone out on social media. So I'm a bit old-fashioned and I don't say anything's right. But what about your audience? How do they listen best? How do they get best? Most people need inspiration, and face-to-face, you give them inspiration.
Great, that's great tip.
Yeah, I love that.
Look forward to trying that at our next team building session, see how that one goes down. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the message changes from the first to the last.
Number 2 is culture.
Gets more difficult for you guys.
Oh God.
This is the first of our practical exercises in a row.
Yeah.
Get ready. Go on, man. Let's hear why culture is so important with your team building.
Well, if you're in a business where you go, integrity matters, and then you walk out the door and you don't walk that talk, nobody believes that you're a leader. And why should anybody follow you if they don't think that what you're doing is right? Culture is the way you do things in a place. It's your DNA. It's the rules of the club. It's how you should behave. And I think culture is really important, and you almost want that hardwired. So what would people do when you're not there is culture. So how do you get culture so people do the right things when you're not there? Because if you're leading a business, you're not there a lot of the time. You're out with clients. You're at a presentation. You're learning. You're doing a podcast. You're not there when people must make their own mind up. So you want them doing it in line with principles and values. And I think that's culture. So can I now try you with this exercise?
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Okay, so for those of you watching, this is going to be a really cool, fun thing to watch Mo do whatever Mark, because we literally have no idea. We haven't prepped this. We don't know what Mark is going to make us do. So these are practical exercises that you run to help your team learn the specific point you're trying to put across, yeah?
And you know there's an old statistic, don't you? If you are told something, or say if you read something, you might remember 10 or 15% of what you read. If you are told something in front of somebody, you might learn double that. 15 becomes 30. The way to double 30 up to 60 is if you do something about it. If you do something, you will remember it. So how can I get 60% of what I say now to be remembered? You will remember this forever because you've done it. Whereas if I just put it on a piece of paper, it's like a lot of data. It's in one ear and out the other. So this is a practical way for you to think culture.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to get you to do something very simple.
Okay.
You might like to stand up to do it. And with your, are you right-footed?
I'm right-footed, yeah.
With your right foot, would you just keep describing, rotate your foot in a clockwise direction?
Okay.
So
Is that clockwise?
Mo's going in a clockwise direction. So far, so good.
Yeah.
So just keep concentrating on your foot going in a clockwise direction.
Yeah.
This is the culture.
Yeah.
You must always keep your foot going in a clockwise direction. Okay? Just concentrate. Men can concentrate on one thing. Keep it going. By now it should be almost familiar.
Yeah.
Now, with your right hand, because you're probably right-handed, keep that foot going.
Yeah.
With your right hand, will you just draw a number 6, please, in the sky for me? So, a number 6.
Oh.
What happened to your foot?
I don't know, Angelos, what happened to my foot?
Mo, your foot didn't follow the basic command of going clockwise. It went the opposite way.
Did it really?
Do you want to do it again? Do it again.
Okay.
So you're rotating your foot clockwise. Now just in the sky, a big number 6.
Okay.
Oh, leg's gone a bit wonky again, Mo.
Did it go the other way?
It went the other way.
Oh my God, that's so weird.
Now, what's the point of that exercise?
Yeah.
To embarrass me?
There are many, but the simple principle is your foot was going in a particular direction. We told you what to do. Something else came along and it overruled the culture. And something told you it was wrong. You just knew something was wrong. Everybody else watching was going, that's not right. So changing the culture, going against the principles of the culture, flags something in your body. Even though it's hardwired, something was different, something changed.
I like that.
Okay. Quick question, Mark, just about culture. Does a toxic culture within a company, does it start with individuals as in lower down, or does it all permeate from the top and just radiate down throughout, or is it a combination of the both? And if you do have that scenario, how do you remove those toxic elements to encourage a healthier culture within the company?
Big picture, there's more responsibility on leaders than there is on followers. I find in any organisation some people will moan. They'll moan about the coffee, they'll moan about the leadership. The art is getting them moaning about the coffee and following the big picture plan, the strategy. It starts from a leader. A leader must walk the talk. I've seen organisations where the leaders are selfish, looking after themselves. Who wants to follow that sort of person? So 90% of the responsibility to be a leader, to be a good leader, starts at the top. The old expression, the fish rots from the head, it's at the top, but 90% of this responsibility lies. People lower down have a responsibility to follow. Yes, they have a responsibility to whistle blow if there's a problem, but most of it starts at the top. We have a principle in this place: are you a radiator or a drain? Have you heard of radiators and drains?
Yeah, I like that.
If you're a radiator, we can all have bad days, but a radiator encourages somebody, a radiator helps somebody, a drain is an emotional black hole. Anybody can be bad on one particular day, but generally, are you a radiator? Good question.
And how, from your experience, how much of that can you work out from an interview versus actually getting them in, working, and then working out which one they are once they've been in?
You know pretty quickly.
Right.
I think you know almost in the first 2 minutes in an interview. You can't always tell. We have a principle that if we're not sure about somebody or somebody's not sure about us, come and work with us for a day. If I was going for a job, even as a top executive, and somebody said to me, you're going to change career and you're going to work in this business, even if I'm paid £150,000 a year, I don't want to jump from where I was to somewhere new and make a big blunder.
Yeah.
Would I go and work in a place that I wasn't sure of? I would. I'd work for a day. And as a boss, I often say, come and get to know us. We have nothing to hide. We have a great culture. Come and work here. And I think that's a pretty good test. Some people go, oh no, I don't want to do that. That's a black mark against them, because I think
it's a great opportunity, right?
It's a lie detector test, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like marriage, right? You wouldn't jump in straight away and commit yourself for several years. You want to date them at least to see what's going on.
So why not offer it? So from a recruitment point of view, I often say, come and work.
Yeah.
So you're not relying on the 2 minutes is misleading, because we can all judge a book by its cover. We shouldn't do, but over a period of time, you do get to know.
People can be very prepared for an interview and say all the right things, and actually,
Eventually, the act will slip, it will drop, and then you'll see the real person.
Start going
in the course of the day. Will you make a drink? If a person won't make a drink, any of us can make a drink.
Yeah.
It's our attitude, and we'll cover it another time. But attitude is more important. EQ is more important than IQ.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Okay. Brilliant. That was culture.
Priorities.
Okay.
Right, Mark. So why are priorities important for building a great team?
Everybody is busy. You've all seen the grid on time management. What's urgent? What's important? Most people struggle with themselves. They procrastinate. They don't get round to doing things. The really good person, and in building a team, you have to try and get people to work on the important and the urgent. So, how do you teach people this lesson? I think an exercise is a good way of doing it.
Okay.
But I'd like to now do an exercise with one of you.
Angelos.
I'm volunteering.
Does he need to stand up?
It would be good, and I'll stand up as well.
I'll go over here.
I'll say...
Okay.
For the benefit of the audio, Mark and Angelos are both standing up now.
And this is my script, Angelos. I have in my hand, I haven't brought it today, but £500 in used notes.
Okay.
And I'm rippling this money in front of you, which is quite intoxicating, because you don't usually see £500. And I say to you, of this £500, rippling these notes in front of you constantly.
Can you smell it, Angelos?
I can.
I'm saying to you, Angelos, this is a really simple opportunity for you. I'm going to throw all this money up in the air, and if you can collect half of it, in the first 2 or 3 seconds, then it's all yours.
Okay.
Are you working out your strategy? Ready, steady, go! And I throw all the money, and it's now all fluttering down. One,
Was it Crystal
2.
Maze? Yeah.
How much do you think you've got of that money?
£100 perhaps.
What was your strategy?
Just grab as much as I could, as quick as I could.
So your strategy to be effective was to just grab whatever was out there.
Yeah.
What denominations had I got in my hand?
I'd imagined it was 20s and 50s and yeah.
I got a lot of fivers. I got quite a few tenors. I got a few 20s. I'd actually got 5 £50 notes.
Okay.
And as I threw them all up in front of you with a big flourish, and you saw them in the air, and you thought, I'm going to grab as many of these as possible, you didn't see the trick. And if there is a trick, I'd got the 50s tucked quite strongly there, and as I put my hands down, the 50s dropped between you and me.
So I wasn't making the...
You had no strategy.
Yeah.
You were looking for anything.
Yep.
And that strategy, if you'd had a strategy and you'd said, I'm going for the 50s, you'd have been watching carefully the 50s, and you'd have said, excuse me, Mark, can you move to one side? And you'd have just picked up off the floor those 5 £50 notes, and you'd have got £500 for 2 seconds, 3 seconds of effort. To this date, and I'm putting this onto public record now, nobody has ever twigged the right way to win this money, because what are they? They're all busy. They're all busy what? With the activity of collecting the fivers.
Yeah.
And what's the strategy? £50 notes. Yeah. Nobody thinks strategy. Nobody prioritises and says, if I just pick up those 5 £50 notes, it's worth all the effort on scooping up all the others, and ultimately nobody is successful. So the message is, what's the strategy? That's the most important thing. Then follow the strategy, prioritise the £50 notes. And that's become the language in this business. We're talking about an issue on your business, on my business, and I say, is that important? Is that a £50 note? In my day, I've got speak to the cleaner, add up the petty cash, sign up a new client. Which are the £50 notes? Which are the £20 notes? Which are the fivers? You know what's coming. Don't bother with the fivers.
Yeah.
Fivers, for a leader, for somebody running a business, are not as important as the £50 notes.
So it's focusing on the high value tasks.
They make you feel good because you're busy, but actually they don't contribute towards the overall strategy, yeah.
So it's working smart, not just working hard.
Yeah. But isn't it easy to be busy?
Yeah.
Isn't it easy to see those gleaming £5 notes fluttering down? Isn't it hard to work out that the strategy is look for the 50s?
Yeah.
So you need a bit of cleverness, and you need a bit of application of that cleverness to do it. Because now I tell you, it's obvious, isn't it?
Do you think people sometimes feel guilt because the outcomes you get from working smart rather than working hard and prioritising well? Do you think people feel guilty for not working as hard for the same outcome, so to say, earning more money by doing less work? Do you think people struggle with that?
That's part of it. Some people are just indecisive. Some people do feel guilty. Some people say, it's immoral to earn £50 for a little bit of work. I should work very hard. But what are the reasons people put up for that? Most people just don't know the right thing to do. So you have to teach them. Plan your work, work your plan. All the basic things are being effective in your life.
I know we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, hopefully a future podcast together, Mark. But what happens if you as an employer see an employee and he's constantly getting the 50s, but spends maybe a quarter of his day doing it and the rest of the day he's just chilling out? Do you sanction him and say, right, bad employee, you're not working 9 to 5:30, or do you say, right, actually this guy deserves a promotion because he sees the bigger picture, right? What should an employer do versus what do you see actually happening?
Depends what the culture is. Some cultures just reward people for working hard. Do you want people who just work hard in your business, or do you want people who are capable? You need a bit of both. And the balance is somebody who's earning lots of 50s has probably got commerciality, is probably switched on. He's important. Somebody who works hard is also important, but they don't add as much value. So when you've got a team, you do need a mix. But the people who are heavy hitters, the person who can secure the sale, they're few and far between. The person who can clean the toilets is not as few and far between. Now, that's not valuing the person who cleans the toilets is of no value, but in terms of pay scales, the person who's successful, in life usually gets paid more.
Yeah.
Very good.
I love that example.
Yeah, really good. Actually,
Can you? Sorry, Mo. Can you just invite me to the next one that you do with?
No.
Yeah. You'll be there with your little grabby stick with the thing
Step aside, Mark.
It's interesting you talk about culture because I actually one of the members of your team actually I heard that story from them. So it shows you how they've obviously heard that and seen that through your work.
I think I know who that is because I keep saying to him.
I know. Yeah.
Is it £50 now?
Yeah. It's brilliant. I love it. Cool.
Listening to feedback.
You can swap over.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Just in preparation for the next one. Cool. So the next one is listening to feedback. So do you want to talk to us about why that's important?
Yeah, I think we talked about leadership, and leadership is about leading. It's about talking. It's about presenting. It's about selling something, inspiring people. But some people, they don't listen. And so I come on to listening, because listening is important. Because how do you know if you're getting it wrong? We all get it wrong. How do people keep you on track? You know about the wisdom of crowds. If you've got a crowd of people, you get a better answer than if you've got it on your own. So how do you stay on track? You need feedback. They say feedback is the breakfast of champions. Mm-hmm. Can I give you an exercise to try and teach
Let's do it. Yep.
Who both want to do this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we stand up?
I'll get you stood up, please. So you're both stood up. Mm-hmm. Now this is really, really simple. You don't need any props for it.
Good. No £50 notes?
No.
Sure?
No. But I'm going to get you to stand on one leg. If you come a little bit towards me, so you're not touching each other, so you are just in a minute going to stand on one leg. So I'm sure it's not difficult to stand on one leg. Can you both stand on one leg? It's not difficult, okay? Now, I'm going to keep the clock on this, but I now want you, just listen to it, don't worry, nothing is going to happen to you. I want you to keep standing on one leg. I want you to shut your eyes. Now shut your eyes and keep standing on one leg, okay? So keep standing on one leg. No, go stand on one leg and just keep standing on one leg. Angelos, you're cheating.
Why is it so difficult suddenly? Okay,
so you're standing on one leg, okay? And it's quite straightforward. This, you're just standing on one leg.
Isn't it just?
No, stay. Just remain still, standing on one leg with your eyes shut, okay? Okay.
Now, that's what legs. So Mo and I are struggling at the moment to actually
just for the benefit of those people who are listening to this and they are maybe not seeing the video, what you're seeing is two people flailing their arms, wobbling all over the place, and I'll let you talk in a moment about the experience, what it's like for you. Now open your eyes, but were you able to stand up for a minute, which is usually the challenge I set to people?
Yeah.
On one leg with your eyes closed.
No. And what was irritating is that nothing had changed physically, except you shut off one of the senses. Yeah. And then it's quite frustrating not being able to do something that you should be able to do with no problem at all.
So why do you think you could not stand up? You shut off your senses. What was happening?
No feedback.
You weren't getting any feedback. Because if I now say, and you don't have to do it because you've done it once, just standing on one leg is easy because you constantly adjust.
Yeah.
You know the old expression of an aeroplane is always off target. It's always 1% out. It just keeps correcting. When you stand on one leg with your eyes open, you can see what's going on and you don't fall over. Both of you were falling over. You certainly couldn't stand up without hitting the wall, touching things, colliding into things because you need feedback. So the message is leaders need feedback.
Love it. That's great.
That's awesome.
And in terms of, I suppose, frequency of feedback, in that example, it's instant and it's like, every millisecond you're getting feedback and you can tweak. From a business point of view and from managing a team and leading a team, what's an appropriate amount of time for feedback? Because surely there's an argument that actually if there's too much feedback, you're not allowing certain things to bed in to actually get the results, to be able to see whether it works or not. So what do you feel like in terms of frequency?
I think there's just a big principle that people get this massively wrong.
Yeah.
They don't listen.
Right.
And some people say, no, I'm an entrepreneur. I go my own way. And sometimes it works. But the number of times it works is few and far between. Most people massively have an imbalance that they say, no, I'm passionate, I'm leading. Yeah. The other part of leading is listening. And I think you must always be listening.
Yeah.
Now, if it's small stuff about the coffee, if it's not a big priority, other people can fix it. But if it's something major, if everybody's rebelling and you're going to get a walkout, you should be listening.
Yeah.
So there isn't a right answer. Listen once a day at 3 o'clock. It's not a formulaic thing. But good leaders want to know the truth. And the reality is a lot of people have problems speaking truth to power. So a lot of businesses, when they grow, nobody tells the boss the truth.
But again, that stems back to culture again and having that open door policy, right?
Without being political, it's not easy to tell Donald Trump that you think you're right because his way or the highway. Is he a leader that you want to follow? Different people have different leadership styles, I get it. But somebody listening to this, watching this, what leadership style do they want? They can be that cavalier, my way or the highway leader. But listening to other people usually gets a slightly better response. Gets buy-in because you're listening. How is a better answer?
What mechanisms do you have in your business to actually allow that sort of, like Angelos said, open door policy, or the feedback to actually come up to you as the leader?
Some people say to you, the thing that saddens me is the bigger you get, the less people want to tell you. So you've got to be listening to other people. And other people come along and saying, oh, Matt just said, and you go, oh. And it frustrates you.
You just wish they'd said it to you,
And you say, oh, what couldn't they say it to me? But sometimes people don't say it to the leader. But are you listening to your key lieutenants?
Yeah.
Are you listening to those people who are good listeners? Do you override it? Or do you go, no, there's a glimmer of truth in that. Okay, how do we get that right?
I guess it's got a fairly big ego thing, isn't it, to actually let go of that and be like, actually, the team is right about a lot of things.
Some people believe the team is right on everything. I'm not quite as emancipated as that. I sometimes think it does need a leader.
Yeah.
But throw it to the team. What would the team do? What would their solution to the problem be?
Yeah.
So we're big on involved team.
That's good.
Lots of ways of doing it. We could talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, for those of you listening and watching at home, and you thought that was hilarious that Mo and I were tripping over ourselves, please try it. We'd love to hear your feedback on closing your eyes and balancing on one leg. Trust, Mark, very, very important.
Final point, and this is a gentler, easier thing, and I'll do that with you if you like, Mo.
Yeah.
The exercise for this is, I get everybody, let's say there's 10 people, to stand in a circle.
Yep.
And I say, just face, so you're facing the back of the person. So there's a ring of us,
Yeah.
and I'm behind you. And I'm at this sort of distance. The first thing I say is, if you're in this group, this isn't particularly physically threatening, is it?
No.
So I often say, start in your ring by giving the other person a bit of a neck massage. They might feel a little bit better about themselves.
Thanks, Mo. I would have loved that.
So it doesn't hurt. And you can do that with boys and girls, and the girls don't usually complain that this is, harassment. But then I say, okay, now this is where it does get a little bit more physical. And the next stage of it is, you're in a circle. There's, say, 10 of you in the circle, or 20, whatever the group. And I'm this close to Mo.
Yeah.
And I say, we're all going to do something at exactly the same time. And that is, I'm stuck behind you. We're all going to just sit down.
Okay.
I've seen this. Yeah.
Now, I will hold on to something because I haven't got anybody behind me. But Mo knows the feeling. So I say, 1, 2, 3, sit down. If we all do this right, so 1, 2, 3, sit down, and trust me, Mo sits on my knees. And if the person behind me sits down, I sit on their knees. And if there's 10 of you, 20 of you in a ring, and you all sit down at the same time, everybody's comfortable. They're sat there thinking, what's all the trouble? Standing there. The problem is, what if somebody doesn't? All it needs is one person in that group to not play the game.
Yeah.
All it needs is one person to say, what a stupid idea, I'm going to stay standing.
Yep.
And as soon as that one person says, I don't like this game, I'm going to do it my way, you'll fall over. Because if you don't fall over, I've fallen over because he wasn't supporting me. So trust, that's a good example of how you build trust. What's the weakest link? Any one person can mess up. But if you all do your bit, it's perfectly stable, safe, and it works. Now, you had to trust me.
Yeah.
And when you did trust me, there was a chair for you, my knees.
Yeah.
If you didn't trust me and you didn't sit down, the guy in front would have fallen down. So you have a responsibility to those in your group and they have a responsibility to you. That's trust. So
I like that.
That exercise is a way of getting people to say, if you don't check that letter and it goes out with a typo, if you don't look at the invoice and it doesn't add up, that lets the team down. What's your part? Because you are the weakest link potentially, or you can let us all down by what you do and don't do. So trust is each of us doing our own work well. I hope the exercise helps.
I love that. I've seen it happen the wrong way, though. So there's a group standing behind this guy, and it's about trust, and it's one of these seminars in America, and there's about 4 guys behind him saying, oh, come on, Ralph, yeah, you can do this. And all he had to do was just lean backwards and they catch him. Problem is, and maybe down to poor communication, instead of going backwards, he went forwards, and no one called him.
The trust game that I've seen that is people catch you, but that's your feeling, and you're relying on everybody else to catch you. I like that one because you've got to do your bit. Because the next person is relying on you. So everybody needs each other. And that's the way it is in a business. We all need each other.
I really like that. So how do you, in terms of those things, do you do those in like this has got a sort of a personal, not personal, selfish question. Do you do these in like a structured, like quarterly or yearly meeting with your team? So it includes new people that come into the business, or how do you communicate these ideas and messages, and I suppose disseminate that culture throughout your business?
Well, the reality is I pulled these together and I thought, what have I done in the past? But I don't do these every week or every month or every year. The fact that you said one of my team members was talking about £50 notes is because I'd said, I don't do that enough. It's probably 3 years since I've done that illustration. So 20 people in my team have never seen that exercise because I haven't done it recently. And the problem is revision is never as much fun as brand new doing it, is it? So for people listening to this for the first time, if they've never heard or seen this, it's fun. If you've done it for the 5th time, you know the trick. If you've done it for the 5th time, you've heard this before. You have to find new and novel ways of doing it. New and novel ways is you can repeat, but not with the same group at the same time. You always have to keep reinventing yourself. So we have monthly meetings, we have regular presentations. We just had our year end, so I have a presentation. You've got to make the effort, and you've got to keep making the effort. And I don't think there's any shortcut to keeping people inspired, but you've got to keep making the effort.
Amazing. That's absolutely brilliant. Well, Mike, I hope you don't mind me asking you, but we definitely want you coming back again, because you just a treasure trove of information and experience, and I think there's so many little nuggets in this episode alone, let alone the future ones that we could create together. So just very quickly before we wrap up, what's the best way for listeners and watchers at home to contact you?
Okay, my email address is mholt@markholt, markholt.co.uk. mholt@markholt.co.uk.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, thank you again. It's really nice actually to see that you're obviously very passionate about this stuff as well, which is great to see from a experienced business leader like yourself. So thank you again. We want to know your thoughts at home on this. Have you tried any of these exercises, and how have they worked out for you? Did you grab the £50 notes? Did you know they were there? Get in touch on hello@yoursuccesspodcast.com or via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube. And also don't forget that Your Success book is available on Amazon. Head to tiny.cc/yourbook to get access to the free Your Success toolkit and put the theory into practice. So thank you again for joining us today, Mark.
Thank you for inviting me.
Real privilege. And thank you for those of you at home listening or watching to Your Success podcast. I've been Angelos. And I've been Mo. And see you again on the next exciting episode.
You have been listening to Your Success podcast. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.yoursuccesspodcast.com.